In Japan, Yuji Hoри's menu-based adventure game Portopia Renzoku Satsujin Jiken came out on the Famicom in 1985, changing video games forever. In Japan. From a first-person perspective, the player controls a detective who has to solve a murder mystery. There are twists and turns, police brutality, and a menu and cursor-based interface obviously not designed for navigation with a controller. In the shadow of that legendary whodunit, adventure games became a major genre on the Famicom. They say the history of art's the history of imitation. Directly copying Portopia, most of these adventures concern murder mysteries with the exact same clunky interface. But some developers branched into fantasy stories, fairy tales, and wacky comedy. Eventually, the genre's player choice elements atrophied to the barest minimum until the modern visual novel was born. There must have been dozens of these things, but as far as I know, only one saw release for the American NES back in the day. It's of the wacky comedy variety, Hudson's 1988 Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom. Like Portopia, Princess Tomato is actually a remake of an older computer game. According to Hardcore Gaming 101, the original followed the same fundamental plot, but lacked most of the incidents featured in the Famicom version. As in Hudson Soft's other PC-88 adventure games, the graphics are bizarre, like a somewhat deranged or maybe high person scribbled some stuff in MS Paint. Though I prefer General Cantaloupe in the PC-88 version. The Famicom version changes him to a soft, motherly-looking type, which is fine, and maybe better for cuddling, but a manly Cantaloupe soldier is funnier to me. In 2004, Hudson also released another graphically enhanced remake on mobile phones. While the colors are nicer, this interpretation misses the mark. The art style from the Famicom version is perfect. For the most part, the American release seems close to the Japanese original. Despite NES Games' well-deserved reputation for horrendous English, the script is solid too. Whoever did the translation went above and beyond for 1991. There is some censorship though. Just one example. In Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom, former model Miss Eggplant here is working at a juice shop, and a little sad. But in Sarada no Kuni no Tomato Hime, Miss Eggplant is at a liquor shop, and apparently very sad. This teaser builds up the intrigue. Who are the Farmies? What is the turnip emblem? Where are the Zucchini Mountains? It shows a scene from each chapter with some zesty text playing it up. There is calmness in the air before the big battle on the deserted plateau. The limited graphics make the scene so evocative, kinda surreal. Are those wine bottles? What is that mound? Hey, the English release makes Princess Tomato's father King Broccoli, but if I'm reading the Japanese script correctly, he's actually King Onion. Why'd they change that? Listen to that music, too. Makes me excited for a whimsical adventure. Maybe check out that enormous eggplant on the horizon. I think that's a daikon and a pumpkin beside it. I've never heard other Famicom music that captured this feeling quite so well. It stirs something within me. Anyway, yeah, this isn't a story about Princess Tomato, but about rescuing her. Oh, you didn't think there'd be an 8-bit princess with agency, did you? When we head down the road, the first event is encountering Percy here. Get it? Percy, since he's a persimmon? Anyway, he's a small child dying of thirst in the road. That's our shadow there. Carrying water from Lake Quench, we save Percy's life. Afterwards, in gratitude, Percy becomes Sir Cucumber's sidekick and the narrator for the remainder of the game. He calls Sir Cucumber boss. Aw, feudal social systems. Oh yeah, bean! After every level, Percy accidentally loses a bunch of your inventory. But never fear, this actually helps, since he only loses useless items, or anyway, items that have only a use during the level you just finished. A partner character who narrates the adventure is another device Hudson borrowed from Portopia Renzoku Satsujin Jiken. In that game, the legendary Yasu follows the player's commands. Japanese games always have risque content, don't they? Princess Tomato is divided into 9 distinct levels, or chapters. Within each, you can explore a given area, interacting with characters and attempting to learn your goal. But once the chapter ends, there's no backtracking. I like that there's a roadside apple shrine made of radish and cabbage. After we rescue Percy, we find Prince Lettuce and several other veggie people buried up to their heads in a field. They're dying of thirst. This is a pretty nightmarish scenario. Sir Cucumber waters Prince Lettuce and the others, resuscitating them enough to learn about the wicked Farmies, whom Minister Pumpkin is collaborating with. Percy calls these guys the Melons, but in fact only 2 of them are melons. In the second chapter, leaving Spinach Heights, we're able to sneak into the city, Saladoria. I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, Percy. Only one of those shops is shaped like a fruit or vegetable, though I suppose he might be able to turn his head to see more. Maybe this is some weird local custom, and folks from outside Saladoria think it's as weird as I would if I saw some buildings shaped like human bodies. The plot begins picking up, with Sir Cucumber and Percy searching for a contact in the underground resistance movement organizing against Minister Pumpkin. This scene in the restroom at what's apparently a hostess club is rather evocative, almost noirish, until we find the asparagus donut that the waiter seems to have left us. I'm not clear on where Percy could find a donut in a restroom that he'd be eager to take a bite, but I suppose if you grew up in horrible poverty, you wouldn't pass up a free snack either. Hey, there goes Octoberry! The Resistance contact ends up being the first guy we saw in Saladoria, this homeless garlic asleep on a bench. The text calls him Wanderer, but I bet that's just trying to tone down what's really going on here. Wanderer is vagrant, get it? I like that this clear lower-class character is linked to the Resistance, although he is a former government minister. As you can see here, some Japanese customs remain in this more European-style setting too. Though Miss Plum's Iromuji appears to be folded on the wrong side. You ever tasted pickled plum? Umeboshi has to be the sourest food known to man. Not that I'd eat this sweet old woman. It turns out there's widespread support for the Resistance. During the Mau Mau uprising against the British in Kenya, among the Kikuyu people, active support for the rebels was basically universal.
It wasn't a small band of militants. Amongst the Kikuyu, it was almost everyone.
That's why the British began rounding the Kikuyu up into concentration camps, killing thousands of people with a regime of starvation and systematic torture. Anyway, something like that is going on here. After we rob a bookshop, the Farmies apprehend Sir Cucumber and Percy, though we don't actually get to see the Farmies yet. In the third chapter, we have to bust out of prison. Obviously, the Pumpkin regime has no concept of due process, but I kinda doubt the monarchy did either. The cells are packed with Resistance members awaiting death. Yeah, Nintendo of America apparently had no problem letting you talk about death in their games yet. The major hurdle comes when Sergeant Pepper, one of Minister Pumpkin's quislings, apprehends us and throws us in the torture room. We'll drown! Thankfully, Pepper leaves us to die, letting us sneak out with the key we stole from a narc earlier. Surprised the cops didn't take that from us before tossing us in jail. Eventually, bluffing with a fake grenade the garlic wanderer carved from soap, we tie Pepper up. Shoes on the other foot now, eh, Sergeant? Slipping past the farmy cops, though, we see that they're clearly humans. But more on that later. For now, we've got to hoof it to Parsley Forest, where the Resistance is holed up. The 4th chapter begins back in Spinach Heights. It's a nice callback, but would have been more effective later on, when we could have reflected more on how much has happened. With the Resistance in prison, unable to rescue the melons, the farmies have harvested most of them. That's disturbing. This is a war of extermination. Though you can't even attempt to rescue Watermelon or anything. Oh, the Fernbirds are back! The circle of life goes on. This chapter features the first battle, too, against the farmy guarding the road to Parsley Forest. That's right, Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom features a battle system. Though instead of anything you'd expect, for some reason it's rock, paper, scissors, followed by an attempt to guess which way the opponent will glance. Princess Tomato calls this process Finger Wars. Best I can tell, it's pure luck. Unfortunately, even though we fight some strange monsters later on, the opponent is always represented by this white cartoon figure who doesn't look like anybody we ever meet. The 4th chapter also features the first dungeon, Parsley Forest. That's right, Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom also has dungeons. Though really, they're just mazes with some frantic music. Captures the terror and confusion of being stuck in a huge, boring maze. Lest you think Princess Tomato's proven innovative for the genre, no such luck. Portopia Renzoku Setsujin Jiken also featured a first-person maze, inspired by wizardry. In the 5th chapter, Mr. Leek guides Sir Cucumber and Percy to the Resistance base, where we finally meet up with General Cantaloupe and the deposed princess. No, not Princess Tomato, but her sister, Lisa, who's human? She must be adopted, surely. This means that not all humans are farmies, then. I guess Hudson wants to reassure the presumed human player base that it's not all humans or whatever. Typical pandering. Vegetables play games too, you know. But wait, look at the Forest Guard again. The farmies are just human farmers. What's going on here? Humans exist in the same universe as the veggie people? This music's still great, though. Reminds me of the main theme from Final Fantasy II. Talking to Lisa feels like it has real weight with this music playing. This grape guy freaks me out. Are his eyes somehow splattered across multiple grapes? We get him drunk on wine. The Resistance is well equipped and organized, but unfortunately, they're not as hardcore as the Mau Mau I mentioned earlier. There's no oath-taking with Goten-Testen, and we don't see the guerrillas hamstring a single animal. But I guess that's the problem with an underground movement aiming to restore a monarchy instead of create a better world. No vision. Yeah, I know there's Pugachev's rebellion, where Pugachev led the peasants claiming to be the rightful czar, but that's different since he was lying. He also repeatedly managed to convince soldiers to let him out of prison with words alone, so clearly this was a man with no shortage of imagination. Anyway, the 6th chapter takes us to Peanut Village, where the Resistance sent us to defeat Bananda and expropriate his Dysomatic, some kind of weapon that would help the cause. Oh, the mound from the demo screen. Ah, a burial mound. We humans construct those too. We're not so different from the veggie people after all. A martyr of the Resistance is buried there, huh? Peanut Village raises more questions. In addition to fruits and vegetables, there are also nut people, as you can see by the mourning village chief and his wife, though you'd be forgiven for thinking they're actually squash. Meanwhile, the roofs are made of peanut shells, and the road that we can't see is also made of peanut shells. So, in addition to being home to peanut people, Peanut Village is made out of peanuts. Are these normal edible peanuts, like those used for peanut butter back in Saladoria? Or are these the corpses of the dead? I'm assuming neither. The peanut gate in the background appears to simply be two giant peanuts erected for ritual purposes. The villagers use giant peanuts like these for construction purposes, I hypothesize, as opposed to normal-sized peanuts, whose small size would render them impractical. The villagers use normal peanuts just as food. In any case, as a valiant knight, Sir Cucumber must rescue the chief's daughter Nutty from Bananda. Knowing that he's a bad guy kidnapping little girls will make murdering Bananda a much less morally dubious mission. Look, the Hudson Bee! We meet Carrot, the hermit for whom, I guess, Carrot Plateau is named. I don't know that kanji on his bottle of clover juice. The chief gives us a lamp, allowing us to navigate the second dungeon, Bananda's Cave. Turns out Bananda is a bunch of bananas. Though all of them have faces, Percy still calls the monster a singular he. Guess this is like the Hydra. Anyway, we kill him, treating Bananda a lot more harshly than we ever do the Farmies. Rooting through the monster's guts, we eventually rescue Nutty. Aw, what a cutie. Now the chief and his wife are so happy. And Nutty too, of course. Wandering the maze randomly, we find the Dice-O-Matic, which turns out to be some kind of humongous mecha. Before we get it back to the Resistance, Minister Pumpkin's soldiers ambush us in their own Dice-O-Matics. Unfortunately, this means we have to beat them in rock, paper, scissors a bunch of times. It's just luck, and it's just tedious. The ambush leaves us outside Sopville, Minister Pumpkin's capital. Magically disguising themselves as Farmies, Sir Cucumber and Percy sneak into town and begin Chapter 7. Turns out Sopville's a cartoonish Wild West town full of pumpkin folks who abuse everyone but Farmies. In this town, if you aren't a Farmy, you're treated badly. Does this mean the pumpkins are some kind of ethnic group? Is Minister Pumpkin trying to instate a racialized social hierarchy? Is this apartheid? Guess it makes sense then that the pumpkins in this bar are dressed as cowboys, linking them to settler colonialism. Anyway, Ron spills the beans about being in the Resistance immediately. Cantaloupe should have sent someone with more nerve. He also expresses frustration with racial discrimination for being a radish. I like that we meet seedy Resistance soldiers in a back alley. Sneaking through a tunnel our comrades dug on P Street, Sir Cucumber and Percy infiltrate Minister Pumpkin's castle. You know, we still have never seen what Pumpkin looks like. But I guess that's true to life. Would your average peasant know the face of the king? Chapter 8 isn't the last chapter, but Chapter 9's just denouement. This is the finale. Using all our wits, equipped only with Percy's random adventure game junk, we have to navigate the castle, find Princess Tomato, and defeat Minister Pumpkin. Mirror, mirror that I hold, who's the prettiest girl in the world? Hey, it's Princess Tomato in the mirror, boss! Luckily, the Farmies have left the castle mostly unguarded to attend one of their savage rituals. I agree with Percy that this is a hideous carpet. You encounter a series of different women who initially appear to be Princess Tomato, but who turn out to be her servants. You'll know the real princess by the star on her forehead. While we're at it, we liberate a bunch of civilians locked up with what I think is a basket of rice. They give us a lot of info, including how to defeat the collaborator Eggplant Soldier, and that there are monsters in the castle basement. We also find a caterpillar on lettuce, which will come in handy since we learn Pumpkin's son is allergic. Though this makes you realize how many parasites the vegetable people must have. Normally, I'd call a caterpillar an herbivore, but not if it's munching on a person's brains, I wouldn't. Eventually, we meet a wrinkled old tomato woman who really tells us to leave her alone. My first instinct is to go ahead and do so, but the chameleon grass that disguised us as Farmies reveals that she was Princess Tomato all along. She didn't trust us before, but for some reason does, now that we've seen through her disguise. Princess Tomato is really cute. but also doesn't look like she does on the box art, either the Japanese or American. But this is only part 1 of Sir Cucumber's 3-part mission. The princess reminds us, we still need to find the turnip emblem and defeat Minister Pumpkin. To that end, we break into the minister's bedroom and follow the secret passage under his bed. This takes us to my least favorite part of Princess Tomato, the last dungeon. Another maze of identical walls, sure, but the main challenge here is defeating the Papa Monster. That might not sound so bad, just more rock, paper, scissors boredom. But no, you won't just find him if you search enough. The Mama Monster will always attack on specific squares of the maze. There's a particular wall in the dungeon where Percy feels a breeze blowing through. The Papa Monster will only appear if you meet the baby monster first, who you can find at a specific dead end, and then take the shortest possible route back to the wall with the breeze, which for some reason has fallen away, revealing the Papa Monster's hiding spot. The scene is frightening enough with the bizarre monsters, high walls, and weird stuff like these holes that talk to you for some reason. I imagine it scared some kids back in the day. I get that the intent is probably that you map out the maze on a piece of paper and gradually piece together what you need to do, but if that's what Hudson intended, then the chapter should start with the dungeon. But you'll never actually figure out what you need to do anyway, because there's no logical connection between finding the baby monster first and then sprinting to a spot where there used to be a wall and meeting the Papa Monster. Did I miss a hint or something? Look! At last, Minister Pumpkin in the flesh. Unfortunately, he's awake, so this'll be more complicated than slitting a sleeping man's throat. Also, like Princess Tomato, he looks completely different than on the Japanese box art. But hold on. After defeating the Papa Monster, we somehow end up back in Minister Pumpkin's bedroom? Even though the path under the bed connects to the opposite side of the maze? What was the point of fighting those monsters? Anyway, we defeat Minister Pumpkin in What Else? Finger Wars, and he collapses. But he still boasts, "You fools! You can't save your land! I don't have the turnip emblem! I gave it to my son! He will marry Princess Tomato and become the king of Saladoria!" After that, Minister Pumpkin just vanishes. We never see him again. I can only assume Sir Cucumber just skewered him with his sword. In the short 9th chapter, we've escaped the castle with Princess Tomato. Everyone throws us a celebratory party in Orange Park, the town square of Saladoria. General Cantaloupe's shorter than I'd imagined. Finally, some thanks. But, that's right, Junior Pumpkin runs in and tries to escape with Princess Tomato. I really like the illustration here. The expressions, the thick outlines, the darkness of the night. Now we have to defeat Junior Pumpkin in more dang Finger Wars. Also, he looks like a ventriloquist dummy now. Then, at last, Percy throws the caterpillar at him. For some reason, the game doesn't let you do this until after you waste a couple minutes on rock, paper, scissors. Junior Pumpkin runs off, carelessly dropping the turnip emblem behind him. And there our story ends. His pacing is all over the place. Looks like Sir Cucumber has a thing for the princess. Guess she isn't too torn up over her father's untimely death. Still, though, it's all so cute it makes me smile. Even if Sir Cucumber, again, looks nothing like the guy on the box. I have to wonder if the illustrator's drawing reference was made before the designs were finalized? It's kinda sad remembering Hudson Soft. They published lots of great video games back then. Bomberman, Star Soldier, Bonk, Adventure Island, Xanadu, those Momotaro train board game things, and later on Mario Party, in addition to releasing their own console, the PC Engine. Hudson was one of the first third-party publishers to adopt the Nintendo Famicom too, with the oddly titled Nuts and Milk. But in 2012, Konami bought him out. Since, ultimately, they're all soulless exploitative companies I've been emotionally manipulated since childhood to be fond of, maybe this isn't so sad after all. Princess Tomato might seem weirdly subversive for a cute video game about veggie people, with, among other things, homelessness, drunkenness, gods talking to you at roadside shrines, a hostess club, a speech major working part-time at a deli, a resistance movement stockpiling artillery, a flirty nude girl, military police torturing prisoners, people being eaten alive, along with silly things more typical for Famicom games like giant mecha battles. But don't expect intricate characters or complex themes. For the most part, Hudson assumes that vegetable and fruit people in serious adult situations will be funny or weird enough to hold your interest. And it is. This raises so many questions, though. Like the farmies. You can't farm the vegetable people. The melons we met in the field were buried alive, not grown. Wait, how do the veggie people reproduce? Do they flower? Do they start as seeds? Apricot and lemon have developed breasts. Do the veggie people lactate? The veggie people also eat fruits and vegetables and nuts, so obviously there are plants that are not sentient, like the fields of spinach at Spinach Heights. So there's no reason for the farmies to murder and devour people. Is it a gourmet thing? Is this some kind of race war? Is this Earth? The ending text says, the farmies were set free to become honest carnivores. So I guess Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom advocates an all-meat diet. Guess all this is for the Princess Tomato expanded universe to explore. The vast majority of the cast receive little development or setup. Percy'll just exclaim, "It's the owner, Mr. Pear," or, "Oh no, it's Saladron," out of nowhere, as if we have context for this world. Then after a few lines of dialogue, we'll never see them again. Most Japanese adventure games of this type suffer from a menu system glutted with an excess of options, used far too rarely to be elements of the interface, as well as a harsh linearity that demands the player take certain actions before others for no logical reason. And that's true of Princess Tomato too. For example, the Garlic Wanderer's kid only appears after you get the donut from the cabaret, even though there's no reason you should have to take these actions in this order. Hudson certainly didn't add anything to the Portopia formula, aside from the inexplicable Finger Wars matches, and the writers put no thought into their world. Instead, the devs seem to be tossing lots of random stuff to entertain the player with the cartridge salad. But while I think Portopia Renzoku Satsujin Jiken offers a more compelling story, Princess Tomato's colorful randomness is a lot more memorable and always keeps you guessing. It's decidedly not a Sierra-style adventure. You can't die, so you never have to get too worried. Princess Tomato is definitely well made for what it is. While I always prefer thematic weight for my art, that's probably too much to ask for from any but the most special of Famicom games. And I can't deny Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom entertained me plenty. It's a shame so few Famicom adventure games have English translations. Though if I carry on this Famicom Adventure series, we'll be seeing more of them. Addendum. Wouldn't you know it, the same week I originally meant to upload this video, Stardust Crusaders made a new English translation. If only I'd started work on this video much later, you would have seen the fan translation from the beginning. Unfortunately, I don't have the energy to completely redo this video with a new translation. Apologies. Since I make no money off my YouTube channel, yet, that would be an unjustifiable time dump. According to the README, one element lost in the English release is a cornucopia of vegetable puns. Let's take a brief look. Though I haven't reached the end of the new translation yet, so far it seems 90% the same. The changes largely had to do with the original's apparently uncredited translator assuming their audience of American 90s kids wouldn't recognize Japanese stuff, such as bento boxes. Stardust Crusaders also translated the instruction booklet. I have the actual Japanese instruction booklet, but I didn't think it was worth spending hours using my rudimentary Japanese skills to read the story. Though my manual, as you can see, is not in color. Not accurate color, anyway. Some tips from Master Takahashi of Adventure Island fame. Thanks, Master Takahashi. Must have been a standard feature of Hudson game manuals. The framing device on the story page casts Percy as an old man informing the children of what had happened when Minister Pumpkin joined forces with the Farmies. Like the Road Warrior. I wish. The old Persimmon is actually Percy's descendant, so we're well into the future at this point. A veggie oral tradition. King Onion brought down the Farmies and protected the Salad Kingdom. He abolished the class system that separated fruits and vegetables, and built a society where everyone could live equally. The kingdom flourished, and all of its subjects revered King Onion. However, Minister Pumpkin did not care for these changes. You see, he had once commanded authority as a noble, but now he could no longer wield power over others. Why should peppers and garlics have the same rights as we pumpkins? That does it. I shall stage a revolt, he said. And so Minister Pumpkin rebelled, building a castle at the foot of the Flytrap Mountains and giving himself the title of Pumpking the Great. He created a class system which put pumpkins first, and he uses his squash core and heavy taxes to oppress everyone in the land. This blows the story wide open. Earlier I said the resistance lacked vision, but based on this, King Onion was a king in title only, and Sir Cucumber was actually fighting to restore a classless society. No wonder we meet impoverished and homeless people and witness how the police abuse them. This is a direct result of the Pumpking's discriminatory policies. Rather than an upstart feuding with other nobles, Minister Pumpkin is a bitter reactionary, attempting to crush a new socialist system and reassert blood and racial hierarchies of power that benefited him. To this end, he has a secret police force arresting dissenters while waging a genocidal campaign against his own people, who disappear bit by bit. This is really dark. Princess Tomato actually pits us against a guy who's basically the textbook definition of a fascist. When I suggested Minister Pumpkin was setting up an apartheid state, I assumed that was not a deliberate implication. But no, that legitimately is the plot. Assuming this translation is accurate. Stardust Crusaders is relatively respected in the fan translation community, but terrible fan translations have also been well received, and I'm far too bad at Japanese to evaluate the translation quality myself. I was also right on the money about the Garlic Wanderer. He is homeless. I thought it was weird that the 1991 release says homeless people love coffee, but the original clears it up. Sir Cucumber buys the Garlic Man a pack of cigarettes, and then needs to find a match. And yeah, I definitely see that feeling more grounded than buying him coffee and searching for a donut. Though many homeless folks definitely would also appreciate coffee and donuts. In fact, I've only ever been asked for cigarettes by people who are not homeless, and the only people to ask me for coffee were homeless, so what do I know? Also, I recommend giving homeless people money and food in general. You don't need a special occasion, just do it. National Coalition for the Homeless. Returning to the game, I also realize I misinterpreted much of the story. In Chapter 2, for example, Simon, the guy at the bookstore, is probably not a cop who's infiltrated the Resistance, but rather a member of the Resistance afraid that Sir Cucumber is a cop, which makes punching him feel less justified. Also, while the first vagrant we meet in Orange Park is a garlic, after we return with the donut or matches, there is a different person sleeping on the bench. Since the sprites are both wanderers and all scrunched up, I figured they were the same person, though I now see they're quite distinct. It's the second character, a turnip, who's the former government minister, and the garlic who gives us the fake grenade in prison. Though in this fan translation, it's a real grenade, which raises a lot of questions about this guy. He could find a grenade, but not cigarettes? I mean, I guess you can't smoke a grenade. At least I'd advise against trying. The lesson is, you might want to play Princess Tomato yourself and determine how many other mistakes I made. At least check out this fan translation and spot the changes. In retrospect, I was too harsh on Princess Tomato's story. This somewhat bumbling knight running around with a youthful squire made me think of Don Quixote, though Sir Cucumber and Percy's bumbling has nothing on the late Alonso Quijano. And that got me thinking about picaresque novels in general. Books in that genre are usually funny, feel subversive, focus on roguish protagonists who are poor or socially marginalized in some way, are set in non-modern societies because they were written in them, and feature disconnected episodic adventures rather than an overarching plot. This Japanese version of Princess Tomato is only slightly more coherent, but that is all the coherency you need to be coherent enough. This adventure game feels kinda like a picaresque novel now. Less toilet humor and sex, though. And unlike Don Quixote and Sancho, Sir Cucumber and Percy never vomit all over each other. Definitely a missed opportunity. By the way, Stardust Crusaders clears up nothing about where Lisa comes from, except that her full name is Apple Lisa. But at least I now realize Saladron might be some kind of guardian spirit at the tree shrine. Also, remember the veggie guys the farmies buried in the field near Spinach Heights? And how 3 of them died gruesome deaths? If this translation is accurate, that is an invention of the original translators. In the Japanese Princess Tomato, those 3 escaped. Those must be their footprints. Surprisingly, the Japanese version is less gruesome than the American one. Anyway, surprise happy ending. I recommend checking out this fan translation to fans of the 1991 English release and newcomers alike. It does feature more puns. Ah, come on, Ms. Blum. No need to apologize. Wow, good video. If you're thinking that, maybe you could like, comment, and subscribe, and all that stuff that makes the algorithm like me. My next Famicom Adventures video will be about a Chinese game about battling drug dealers with Kung Fu. Also, I have a much more serious video up my sleeve about the silver case. I hope you enjoy that too, or one of my other videos. Bye-bye!